I cannot express my happiness to see Patricia Heaton this early on in Frasier. I believed she was actually going to be in the show later on. So to have her in the second episode, I'm rather excited. Even if she wasn't in this episode, it would still be brilliant, but that is absolutely the icing on the cake. This is the second episode of the second season of Frasier. This is directed by the wonderful Kelsey Grammer, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. And it starts off in Mahoney's. Frasier comes in after seeing his date. We establish that it's almost Valentine's Day. We then have a brief moment with Moose and Olivia, and I like the fact that they didn't just completely chop off that relationship from the previous season. I like the fact that things carry on a bit, and I also love how it concluded in this episode. Well, actually, I don't know if I love it, but it works well within the episode, but I'll talk about that when we get there. People are talking about their Valentine's plans. David got a Valentine card from a secret admirer, although Frasier very quickly reveals that it was from Daphne. Love a Daphne mention. And then Moose asks Frasier for advice. And Frasier tells him to send this woman, Frasier doesn't know it's Olivia at this point, some flowers. And he makes some not great comments about basically implying that this woman doesn't have a good job and she doesn't have intelligence and she works in some job that Frasier was kind of looking down his nose at. Didn't love that, but nevertheless, he gives Moose this bit of advice, and the next thing we know, Frasier goes to get his Robert Burns book back from Olivia, and there are flowers, gorgeous flowers, on her desk, and Frasier at that point doesn't make the connection. He actually thinks that she's going to be firing Alan, which would be devastating, and for a while he still believes this. We're then back at the bar, back at Mahoney's, and unfortunately Frasier's date has cancelled on him with the excuse, and it did seem like an excuse, that there was a problem with her boiler. Moose is then in Mahoney's and he shows Frasier a text he received from this woman, Olivia, of course, saying that they need to talk. So Moose is panicking, asking Frasier what he can reply, and Frasier types out a beautiful romantic text and sends it to this woman. And he also suggests to Moose that since his date cancelled, Moose takes his reservation that he made a month ago at this fancy restaurant, and he invites this woman, of course, Olivia, in text to this restaurant. And it's very clear that things were going to get very tangled very quickly, because as soon as Moose sent that text to Olivia, Olivia called Frasier asking for advice. Now, Frasier has to then go and see Olivia, not realising she's just received that text, and Moose panicking again that if this woman replies, he won't know how to respond. Frasier would have to do it for him, so he tells Frasier to take his phone. Brilliant way to move the narrative forward, because of course Frasier then goes to Olivia with Moose's phone in his pocket. Olivia replies to the text, and the phone Frasier has in his pocket alerts him to the notification. I'll be honest, he worked things out much more quickly than I was expecting. It's not a complaint, just I thought it was something that would kind of carry on for much longer in the episode, but actually it worked really well, and Frasier then started to turn his back on Olivia to type out a reply, and she would be texting Moose, which would then go to Frasier, and Frasier would then be texting Olivia, and it could have got very messy very quickly, and I think everything worked out really, really well. Olivia even ended up asking Frasier to write her text for her, so basically Frasier was just having this romantic exchange with himself, which I absolutely loved. We see Alan teaching briefly. Frasier then tells him he's not getting fired, and I think it was pretty predictable at that moment that Alan was just going to throw the towel in and give up trying harder in his lessons, and he left. It went the way that I was expecting. We're then at Mahoney's again. Freddy is behind the bar, and good fun. I quite liked it. I thought he had a great attitude about him. And Moose is there, of course, and he's thinking, maybe I should just not have this dinner date because I don't know how to react. I don't know how to talk to her. And Frasier has this brilliant quote, and he says, "You cannot give up on love just because it requires a little bit of effort." Simple, sweet, very, very true. And then Moose tells Frasier it's Olivia, which again, I wasn't expecting to be revealed so soon, but it does make sense once we get to the conclusion of the episode why they decided to make these reveals so early on in the show, not just in the episode. And we then go to the bar, and there's Patricia Heaton. And I wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting it. I thought it was much later in the season, so very, very happy. And she's working at the bar in this restaurant. Her character is called Holly, and Frasier flirts with her a little bit, which I'd expected. I knew nothing about her character going into this. I'd seen pictures, but I didn't know any of the context. But I had a feeling there would be something potentially romantic, but she does say she's seeing somebody. And I think she's only in it, well, I won't say how long she's in it for, just in case you don't want that information, but I don't know what they're going to do with this character. And I'm very, very keen to find out. It's also kind of strange for me because I've just finished, I think last week or the week before, I finished watching Back to You, which is another James Burrows show with Patricia Heaton and Kelsey Grammer. So to then see them, I love it. I'm so, so happy. And Frasier is sitting at this bar while Olivia and Moose are on their date, and neither of them realizes that Frasier is there to help or also help the other person. And Olivia had told Frasier at this point that it's Moose, and it's a brilliant performance. Frasier basically runs round the table, and they put some plants behind them. So I thought that was a really nice way of helping keep Frasier hidden. And we get a very funny moment in a little bit. But Frasier's running back and forth, trying to help them, telling them what to say, giving Moose Shakespeare quotes, and he just kind of shouts love at one point. And I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. And then he gets a text from Carol, his date, or his supposed date, and it turns out that actually she can come after all. Was her boiler really broken, or did she have another date that fell through? Who knows? Frasier realises he gave up his reservation. And Holly confirms they're fully booked. So Frasier parts the plants and just kind of pushes his body through them. It's fantastic. And don't love his behaviour here, but he basically manhandles Olivia, and at this point, Olivia and Moose had actually decided that they're just going to be friends, which I'm kind of happy about, because I didn't want the entire season to just be all about will they stay together, will they separate. I didn't really want that to be recurring for too long. So I like the fact they're just friends, but at the same time, I thought they were quite sweet together, and Moose seemed really happy, and I really, really like Moose. So part of me's happy, part of me maybe wishes we had a little bit longer, which is contradictory, but basically I would have been happy either way. And Frasier says friends shouldn't eat in a romantic restaurant together, and he pushes them out of the way, and then his date arrives. And it goes from bad to worse. She has 8 children, which in itself is not necessarily bad, but if they're young children, that's a big responsibility for somebody to take on as a potential stepfather. And then she hands Frasier a wallet of photos, and I did not expect this. I genuinely did think, oh, they're going to be cats or maybe dogs, and he says they're snakes. Was not expecting that. So definitely one step ahead of me the entire time, which I love. And yeah, Frasier faked a phone call from his Aunt Sadie, which was Eve's advice at the beginning, and then we end with a couple purchasing a lot of flowers, and then the machine falls down. And it was a dramatic way to end things, but I liked it. It's a solid episode. I really love it. And I wasn't expecting to feel otherwise, because it's Frasier, and it's a fabulous episode. Highlights, well, Patricia Heaton, needless to say. Frasier bursting through the plants. And Moose in general. I love Moose. I think he's an absolutely fantastic character. Freddy behind the bar, I quite liked. And in general, brilliant episode. No complaints from me at all. Really looking forward to watching the next one.